I mentioned I hate Canada before? You hear that? That's snow. Because in our town, the plowing situation is terrible. They just don't do a good job. It's terrible. So the weather is one of the things I hate about Canada. Our winters are way too short. Or our summers are way too short, our winters are way too long. And our winters are way too cold. And we get way too much snow. Even though we don't get very much snow a lot, like every year, it's not like, you know, we get 3 feet of snow every month or anything like that. We get a couple of big dumpings where I am. We get like one big snowfall, then nothing, then it gets cold, and then closer to the end of the winter, we get another big snowfall. Anyway, that's only one of the reasons I hate Canada. Another reason I hate Canada is our hate speech laws. I haven't spoken really on M-103 very much. This is the motion by the House regarding hate speech or condemning Islamophobia or condemning what was it? The whole thing was to condemn people who engage in criticism of people's religion, but in particular Islamophobia. Why is that light there? Anyway. In particular Islamophobia. But it doesn't define what Islamophobia is, and you know, critics of the notion will say, you know, it just means criticism of Islam. And the reason I haven't spoke out about it is because it's a non-binding motion. It's not like it's, you know, it changes the laws in Canada. The laws in Canada are already pretty suspect when it comes to speech. So I was reading them this morning, and I know I'm probably going to get a few details wrong. But hate speech in Canada is basically defined as anyone who, or anytime you say something which advocates for genocide or violence against an identifiable group. Or violence against any identifiable group. But the problem is that the law gives certain exceptions. So for instance, one of the exceptions, which I don't understand, is what you said. Can it be proven that what you said is true? Meaning, does that mean that if you can prove that it's a good idea to kill an identifiable group, kill all members of an identifiable group in Canada, then you're exempt from prosecution under the hate speech laws? This is the thing that's kind of disgustingly vague, as you know, Alan Watts would put it. But another thing is, you are exempt if what you're saying is part of your religion. That is it can be tied to religious doctrine. So, if in the case of the Quran, where it says, you know, atheists aren't even human, it doesn't say that specifically, but this is the scholarly interpretation of certain passages within the Quran and the Hadith, that atheists are not human and therefore it's not a crime to kill them. And that Jews are pigs. So that's in the doctrine of Islam. So anybody who says that sort of thing is protected under criminal code. However, if I were to say Islam is a vile and barbaric ideology worthy of nothing but contempt, technically that's okay. That doesn't qualify as hate speech. But if I say that Islam needs to be wiped out, Islam needs to be relegated to the annals of history as just a really bad idea, like you know, like communism or like eugenics, you know, does that qualify as hate speech? Because an argument could be made that if I'm saying wipe out this ideology, I'm saying wipe out all adherence to the ideology as well, which I'm not saying. So Ontario Human Rights tribunal or committee or whatever, council, you don't got a case against me. But I can foresee in the future either going to jail for things I'll say against Islam, because I'll speak till I'm blue in the face about Islam, or leaving the country. And I don't know how I'm going to convince my wife to leave the country because she likes it here, and she's not one that's really open to change of that nature. She's not going to pack up and move to the United States. But anyway, yeah. So these are the two things that in the criminal code I don't think they really thought that out. You're exempt if you can prove what you're saying is true. Well, if what you're saying is something, if the only time you're ever going to be brought before the court over this law is if you're advocating for genocide or advocating for harm against a specific group, then how do you prove that that's true? How do you prove that what you're saying is true, or what you're advocating is true? It's an opinion, right? So it lends to the idea that the hate speech law also is supposed to encompass criticism of specific ideas or criticism of specific peoples. So if I were to criticize, say, all gypsies are thieves, which isn't true. Not all gypsies are thieves. Actually, gypsy I think is a derogatory term at this point, but I don't know. If I were to say that all gypsies are thieves, that could be classified as hate speech in Canada. In which case, I'd have to prove, in order to be exempt or in order to be found not guilty, I'd have to prove that indeed all gypsies are thieves, right? So this is where, the whole M-103 comes in, and it's basically, I guess my issue with M-103 is it's just a motion, right? It's a motion for members of the Parliament to decry Islamophobia and decry discrimination and speech, hate speech against people of different religions or religious groups. That law's already in the books. That law is already on the books. So M-103, it's a Nothingburger, as the new phrase that's been bandied about for any number of things that are made up to be a controversy, but aren't really a controversy. Because those laws are already on the books. So M-103 means nothing to me. That's why I haven't spoken about it, because I'm like, I already know what our hate speech laws are in Canada. Personally, I don't believe in hate speech. I don't believe there should be such a designation of speech as being hate speech, because what it amounts to is basically hate speech is any speech that is uncomfortable in the current cultural paradigm, right? So anything that people don't really feel good about, or anything that somebody takes offense to, could be considered hate speech, especially if it speaks to a person's ethnicity, their country of origin, their religion, their political affiliation even, their skin color, anything. Their hair color even. If you make fun of gingers, technically you're engaging in hate speech. Gingers have no soul, by the way. So, like I've said before, I'm a big advocate of free speech, and I think that all speech should be allowed, barring, incitements to violence. And I guess that's where the criminal code stands, right? You can't incite violence against a certain group. You shouldn't be able to incite violence against anybody. Identifiable group, that's their terminology. It is a crime to incite violence or advocate for genocide of an identifiable group. Well, you shouldn't be able to incite violence towards anyone. In my opinion, you shouldn't be able to say death to Kathleen Wynne, even if you think Kathleen Wynne should die. You shouldn't be able to say that. Or you shouldn't make a serious or in good faith motion towards that end. If you're just hyperbolically screaming, God damn it, I hate Kathleen Wynne, I wish she was dead, that to me doesn't constitute a crime. If you get up on a podium and you rally people around you and say, we're going to march down Queen's Park and we're going to pull Kathleen Wynne out of chambers and we're going to chop her head off. Come on, guys, who's with me? That is different. That's incitement to violence. That is specific incitement to violence towards an individual, and I don't think that should be allowed. As a matter of fact, that would be conspiracy to commit murder. But, or could be argued as conspiracy to commit murder. So in that sense, I think those things should be criminal, right? But to say something like, you know, I don't like all these Muslims here. I wish we could send all those Muslims home, or we should send all those Muslims back to the countries they come from. Never mind that, you know, there are thousands of Muslims born in Canada every year. So, I don't think that should be a crime to say that. I think it's disgusting sentiment. I think it's vulgar, and I don't think it's very well thought out. And if somebody does say something like that, I know quickly to turn them off, stop listening, click to another video, whatever. But the reason that we shouldn't be so quick to describe certain speech we don't like, as hate speech, is because when you try and silence people who say things that, while they might be uncomfortable, might be controversial, might be difficult to hear, or culturally insensitive, or whatever you might want to call it, while the tendency would be to silence those people, when you do that, you will necessarily be putting those people sort of underground. They become marginalized at that point. To the point where they can only speak in secluded groups, right? This is the whole idea behind no platforming. If you no platform somebody, all you do is make them go underground. And, you know, Milo Yiannopoulos and everybody else, plenty of other people have said this, Dave Rubin, the only way to fight bad ideas is to shine a light on them. So you let these idiots like Robert Spencer speak, and you let morons and racists say their moronic racist crap, and that shines a light on it. When you try and silence them, when you advocate for violence against them, all you do is make them stronger, right? They become like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You strike them down, they become stronger than ever before. Anyway, that's my thought on M-103. That's my thought on the whole idea of hate speech. That's my thought on Canada's hate speech laws. And I'm sure some legal professional can pick apart what I've said and find some justification for what I believe are poorly written laws in Canada regarding speech. God, I got so much ice in my wheel wells. There goes some. Anyway, I'm at work now. Thanks for listening. That's not bad considering the roads are shitty. It's just 14 minutes. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you all later. Thanks a lot. Bye.